and he is CNN, and they're coming down here interviewing somebody who looks kind of official, probably, about this whole Ebola thing. So hopefully, if we can all get through this weekend healthy in one piece, then maybe we can possibly enjoy a Browns victory.
He said he looked kind of official, man. They're swarming down there because, yeah, if there's a story to be told, remember, facts, not fear, as we continue to throw nothing but fear out over the airwaves. Although my brother and I were laughing last night. We're like, boy, they love to tell you there's nothing to worry about while they're wearing a hazmat suit. I'm just saying, man. I'm like, why are we wearing suits if there's nothing to worry? No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, I bet the media is just descending there. Like you said, CNN, I'm sure Fox News, they've all got broadcasts coming from that area and everything. It's the Dallas of 2 weeks ago. It's the new hot link of the story. And now CNN can sit there and draw, have guys holding up little models of how the germs have traveled through the air. Remember when the plane disappeared? I was amazed that people sat there for days and watched this footage where they found a way to talk about the same thing over and over for literally 24 consecutive hours without saying anything new. It was a thing of beauty if you can appreciate news that doesn't actually deliver news. So I'm sure that's what's happening right now down in your area.
Well, if there's a story or even a non-story we have, I mentioned about the guys in the hazmat suits.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Reagan used to deal with the Russians. He would say, trust.
Outside E.T.'s house with hazmat suits telling you, nope, there's no alien here. Nothing to worry about here,
Right.
All right. We haven't talked about football anyway. We talked a little baseball earlier this week. You were wrong. Did you say San Francisco was going to wrap it up?
I said that San Francisco would not wrap it up by this time. I thought that they would probably go all 7 games, so I was wrong there. But I think I did have them winning the whole thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and there they go. Now you got the Giants and the Royals. We'll talk about that on Tuesday. You and I will do the full preview thing. But a chance yet this week to talk about the Browns and where they're at coming out of the Steelers. You heard J.K. in the previous segment there. Now, people want to throw out the word trap game. I don't use that because to me, that doesn't apply yet if you're the Cleveland Browns. It's why, I know J.K. threw it out a bunch of times, and I've seen it all over the newspaper, but I'm kind of with Coach Pettin, man. I don't think you can use that term with the Browns yet, man. If the Browns are at the point where they're going to fall into that trap, then they've got some problems internally because they're not at that level yet where you can be trapped.
I agree. They're not at the level yet. I think a trap game means a team that's really, really good. Like the Patriots and the Broncos of years past, they're rolling along. They're like 10-2. And then, they face a team that they're not really paying attention to and they get upset. I think you have to be a lot better than the Browns and have to have a better record and a better track record than the Browns in order to fall into a trap game.
It's not the talent. I'm with you. I don't think they have to be better. I'm not talking about the talent, but you have to have established a better track record for you to look ahead of other teams.
Right, and the good thing is, Coach Patton is, he's addressing this. I'm sure he's addressing this every day, but it's a situation where it's not like this whole trap game thing is going to sneak up on the Browns players or coaches. If they're talking about it, look, things are going kind of well right now for the last couple of weeks. Let's not overlook Jacksonville. And of course, you look at these next two teams, you're like, wow, you have these visions of being 6-2 dancing in your head. And then you think, well, 2 more games after that, and Josh Gordon comes back, and you just start to think it's Christmas morning, and you got to really slow your roll because you got to remember last year we were 3-2 also. So you come crashing down in a hurry. So you really have to take these one game at a time. And I was looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars this week, and the good news is they really are not a very good team.
And I'll tell you what, Jeff, when it comes crashing down, as you and I both know, it hurts inside. You got to take a stand, brother. It won't help to hide. It will not help to hide. So Jacksonville, and as you said, I'm with you. When you look at the overall team numbers offensively, dead last in the league in rushing, second to last in the league in passing defense. They're near the bottom of the league, giving up 300 yards, basically 300 yards per game through the air. Middle of the road, even their best defensive category is rushing, and they're still giving up $120 on the ground. So I'm with you. As a team, there's a reason. They're not a 0-7 team that's a few breaks away from being 3-4 or something like that. I mean, they really have played like an 0-7 team thus far, and part of that is the function of making the early season switch to the rookie quarterback. And that was the decision that a lot of people assumed was going to happen here in Cleveland, was after a loss or two, you'd make the switch from Chad Henne to Blake Bortles, and same thing here, from Brian Hoyer to John Manziel. Of course, that didn't happen here. Did happen there. Bortles now thrown into the fray. They figure if we're going to be 0-7, we're going to do it with our rookie quarterback.
Right, and that's really symptomatic of the entire team. I mean, when Gus Bradley took over a couple years ago, he just started all over again, and so they really have a lot of first and second year players, and that was their strategy to bring Bortles along nice and slow, but he caught on so well, and he was coming along so well that come week 3, they're like, there's really nothing else for him to do, but he's ready to go in there. So it was just a lot quicker learning curve for him, and he's done pretty well. He's a very accurate passer. I think he's about 67%, which is among the best in the league from an accuracy standpoint. He threw for over 300 yards last week, but of course that was in one of those comeback situations where they actually almost came back and beat the Tennessee Titans. It was crazy. They scored a touchdown at the end with Bortles threw a touchdown. Then they recovered an onside kick and tried to kick a 55-yard field goal to win the game, which would have sent every Tennessee Titans fan straight to the rubber room. But it was blocked, so the Titans barely escaped. And so hopefully the Browns will avoid anything close to that. The Browns are going to have to definitely put this one away a lot earlier than that.
Absolutely, and I saw that, how the end of that game went down for them there last week. And you can see, a bit of a difference in the offense of Jacksonville with Bortles than you saw with Henne. Henne was a competent, steady hand, but, there's a significant, Henne was, in the few game sample, he was closer to 53, 54%, whereas Bortles is completing nearly 70% of his passes. Now, I have not watched every Jaguars game, so I don't know if that's a function of a lot of dump-off passes and a lot of high percentage passes that he's completing. I don't know, but that impressively sticks out to me right there. 67.8% of his passes completed. But even also yards per game, he's thrown for 100 yards per game more than Chad Henne averaged in his couple of games, where that offense was just absolutely abysmal. So you can see that was apparently the right move to make. Interception wise, that's where you're getting hurt. Some turnovers with Bortles there, because you're going to get that with the young guy. But what he brings that what a lot of people talked about with Manziel, that dual threat. I really think Bortles is going to get better. He's a young guy, and either quarterback. I don't think the biggest problem of this team is at the quarterback. Well, they have a lot of problems in Jacksonville, but Toby Gerhart, which, by the way, was, to me, anybody that stepped in for AP, that's like the guy who rides the hot run through the playoffs and then gets the big contract or whatever. I just could not believe that people were buying high on Toby Gerhart. I didn't like him. I didn't think he was the real deal at all. I just thought he was a product of the situation that he found himself in. But Jacksonville not getting anywhere near the production they had hoped for with him. He's averaging like 2.5 yards a carry in the rushing game.
Yeah, and he was hurt last week, so he didn't even play last week. So he's trying to kind of recover to be able to come back and play against the Browns. Toby Gerhart's pretty much like the anti-Ben Tate. He's someone who, showed some promise behind another great running back, but unlike Tate, he's not ready to be the main guy. But unfortunately for the Jaguars, they don't really have anybody else. They've got Storm Johnson, who ran for a touchdown last week, but even Bortles ran better than Storm Johnson last week. So really the best thing that the Browns can do is just bottle up this weak Jaguars rushing attack and really force them to become a one-dimensional team like they did last week when they were behind. They had to throw the ball a lot. In fact, they threw the ball, twice as much as they ran the ball. And that's a good situation for the Browns to try to get the Jaguars in. Maybe get a couple of touchdowns early, hopefully take the crowd out of the game, maybe get the Browns fans who are down there cheering pretty loud, and put the Jaguars, back on their heels and try to force Bortles, who is still a rookie, into making some mistakes, especially if you can come at him with a lot of blitzes from, different angles.
I absolutely think that the Browns, I agree, they bottle up the rushing attack. Here's where the double-edged sword is yes, Bortles is a rookie, but he's got some good people to connect with. Of course, Cecil Shorts beat the Browns last year with that late touchdown over Joe Hayden. Last week, he forced himself back early, and you know what? I gotta give him some credit, because he came out and said that he came back early and that a lot of people said he was nuts, but he didn't care. He is playing for a contract. He's playing for his future in the NFL, and he came back early and lived up to it. 10 catches, career high, $103, and they've got some weapons. They're finding Clay Harbor there at the tight end position. Of course, you've got the rookie, Allen Robinson, who a lot of people we talked about him a bit here in Cleveland when we were looking at wide receiver potential draft. Hearns has put himself out there. They've got some weapons for Bortles to get that ball to.
That's right. They do have some weapons back there, and it's going to really be up to the Browns defense to basically make it so Bortles doesn't have a lot of time to throw those weapons. They got to keep him on the run, even if he does have to get out of the pocket, even if he maybe breaks off a couple of running plays. That's better than connecting way down the field. So it's going to be kind of a test for the Browns secondary to deal with Bortles and the guys that he has. But it's just going to be, the Browns are going to be well served if they can make it so that's the only thing they have to worry about. If they can just, really bottle up the run, like I said, and make them pass, and then pretty much that's all, everybody will see it coming, and that's all that the Browns will have to worry about.
Now, let's look at some other, here, when I was looking at Jacksonville, to me, one of the biggest, obviously we mentioned their lack of rushing. That comes down to problems on the offensive line. Remember, they tried to sign Alex Mack in the offseason before the Browns matched that contract. They knew they wanted to address their offensive line. It's affecting them not only in the running game, but also the quarterback sacks. The Browns have an opportunity this week to bump up those sack numbers a little bit, I think, and maybe get some confidence in those pass rushers, because this is an offensive line that has allowed the quarterback to be sacked 27 times in 6 games. That's an average of over 4, nearly 4.5 sacks a game given up. So you can, as a defense, you can get to this quarterback. I think Bortles was brought down 5 or 6 times last week in that game. So you can definitely, and that's going to come more too with his quick-footedness and willingness to get out of the pocket. But the Browns definitely have a offensive line that they can attack this week.
That's right. It really shows how important it was for the Browns to hang on to Alex Mack, not just for themselves, but if Mack was really on the other side of the ball, then that would really help them a lot. They've got Luke Jokel, who they drafted pretty highly, but they don't really have a whole lot else. So yeah, I think the Browns can definitely get in on Bortles, and again, maybe just shorten the amount of time that the receivers will have to stay with Cecil Shorts and the rest of the guys. So I think the pass rush of the Browns is really going to be key, and it's probably going to be the key the other way around too, because the Jaguars have some guys like Derek Marks that can rush the quarterback, and so the Browns, especially without Alex Mack due to the injury, they've got a bit of a reconstituted line. The Browns are going to have to basically protect Hoyer and keep the Jaguars pass rushing attack from getting in there, because they've got some guys. I think they have 19 sacks so far, which is pretty good.
Yeah, they've got 19 as a team. You got a couple of Chris Clemens. You've got Andre Branch. They've got 3 sacks. You mentioned Derek Marks. He's got a couple as well. They can get after the quarterback, too. That's going to be big. What they can't do so far this season is force turnovers. They have not been able to force a lot of, at least interceptions. They've got 1 interception as a team. That's a weakness right there. And against a team that thus far in the Browns has shown a reluctance to turn the ball over and especially throw interceptions, that's a place that I see being a big point of emphasis for the Browns, is just protect that football, because this team, they're not going out there and making plays against the pass game.
That's right, and that's entire season. The Browns have done a very good job holding on to the ball, and the Jaguars, that's what young teams do. They turn the ball over, they throw interceptions, they make a lot of penalties. They are a young team that plays like a young team, and hopefully the Browns can come in there and pretty much, be the boss, hang on to the ball, maybe run some time off the clock, and, pretty much control the line of scrimmage, control the clock, and put the Jaguars in some desperate situations after the Browns have maybe hopefully come down and gotten 7. So I think that this is going to be a situation where the Browns, even though they do have a lot of young players themselves, are going to have to pretty much play and be the more experienced team the way that the Browns have faced teams like that in the past, where the Browns have been on the other end of the equation.
And I'll tell you what, another place that I'm looking for the Browns here to make an impact is on special teams. I've noticed looking at the Jaguars, they don't have a lot of fair catches on their punts. So they get a lot of returns. They've had a 40-yard punt returned against them. They've had a 50. So they have some weaknesses in that